Oh, don't mind me everybody, I'm just sitting here playing Kirby Slide, a game that was released for the all-forgotten e-reader that was actually used to promote the Kirby anime. Right back at ya. Oh, would you look at that, I've gone ahead and mentioned the anime. That was a mistake on my part, I can hear the floodgates opening from here. Kirby Star Allies, the Pink Puff's first foray onto the Nintendo Switch, and it kinda came by surprise. Nobody really expected a traditional Kirby game to get announced so soon after the last one, Planet Robobot. Especially since now it is the fourth game of the same style since Kirby initially made a comeback with Return to Dreamland. I kinda figured a brand new console would have given us something totally new to play with, but I guess not. Anyway, you all know the drill by now. Brand new Kirby game, time to put it through its paces. So the story, alright, a bad guy is filling Popstar with darkness in the form of dark hearts, and it's up to Kirby to save the day. Yeah, that's about it. Some of Kirby's familiar friends and foes get messed up with those dark evil hearts, but there really isn't much more to the premise beyond that, except for King Dedede getting a slight redesign. Again, they just can't settle on a look for him for some reason. Okay, I take it back. This is the best Dedede yet. I know that Kirby has never been the epitome of story, and that's all fine and good, but what's missing now is an interesting setting. Return to Dreamland got away with these pretty generic themes since it was the first main Kirby game in a while, but Triple Deluxe had you climbing up a giant beanstalk, and Planet Robobot roboticized the entirety of Kirby's planet. Star Allies, on the other hand, just goes back to, stop the bad guy. A couple of new characters do show up along the way, but character depth isn't really there in the slightest. This trio of generals doesn't really get anywhere near as much development as Susie got. I will agree, this is definitely petty, but I also wanted to quickly talk about Susie again because she was pretty cool. I don't know, after Mario and Zelda got these massive franchise shakeups on the Switch, I kind of expected a little bit more new stuff with Kirby here. And hold on to that statement, that's gonna permeate throughout the entire video. As I mentioned before, this is the fourth game of this style, so by now you most certainly know how this goes. You enter a level, maintain cuteness while destroying everything in your path and collecting things, you jump on a trampoline at the end, and you just do that until you beat the game. The main gimmick this time around is Kirby has the ability to spawn a friend heart, and upon chucking it towards a compatible enemy, you force them to join your squad for a while and be your friend. This is one of the most adorable things I have ever seen. So now, whether you are in single player or in local multiplayer, you have a group of up to 4 characters running through the levels. Sorta like Return to Dreamland, and it actually strongly resembles that cancelled GameCube game too. The big difference though, is this game is definitely designed with multiplayer as the primary focus rather than the single player. Playing with friends in the Wii game just kind of felt like an afterthought, as it usually typically does in platformers in my opinion, but that is not the case with Star Allies. Extravagant level designs and gimmicks have been greatly toned down in favor of creating a simpler experience that anybody can jump in and out of at any time. And is that a bad thing? Yes and no. As a result, the game can come off as kinda boring. Level designs are pretty lackluster, and while the common joke is that Kirby games are really easy and are for kids, this is genuinely one of the easiest games in the series, approaching epic yarn levels here. The collectibles are super easy to find, puzzles are practically always giving you the answer right away, and bosses go down in a record-breaking time since you now have 4 characters wailing on them at once, but they have an amount of health that would be reasonable if you were only handling it solo. This is simply not the evolution of the traditional Kirby formula, so in that essence, it is disappointing. That being said, my first run of the game was entirely done in co-op. and I had a great time. I've said this so many times before, but the basic concept of Kirby is simple fun, and the game did just enough to make it an entertaining romp from start to finish without ever feeling like I needed to slow down and wait for the other player to catch up, which is a pretty common issue with how co-op was handled in games like Return to Dreamland or even Dreamland 3. Oh god, why would you even bother there? There are also these special moments where all 4 friends combine together in different formations, and none of them are particularly difficult, which, you know, that's fine, but they also never end up feeling like teamwork. One person basically does everything, while the other players just sit and watch. As adorable as it is seeing Kirby conducting a train of friends, this idea kinda falls flat, honestly. At least it's entertaining to look at. So while this isn't a step up in terms of Kirby design, it is probably the best example of local multiplayer this series has seen yet. Aside from City Trial and Air Ride, because you all know that's the best. Whether or not you play the game in multiplayer is going to drastically change your experience with the game. The single player isn't terrible, but it's certainly weaker than a lot of the other Kirby games that come before it. Now that being said, that's just talking about things on a base level. We gotta start going way deeper than that. Rather than just allowing you to create whatever team of cute blobs that you want, Star Allies reintroduces a form of copyability combinations. The 2 games prior to do something similar are 64 and Squeak Squad. And as much as people want this to be just like Crystal Shards, that's actually not the case. Rather than just combining any 2 abilities that you see fit, combos here come in 2 different fashions. Some abilities are elemental and can be combined with weapon abilities. This is how most of the adventure goes, and it actually does a pretty solid job making this interesting throughout. Sometimes a specific elemental weapon combo gives you a slightly different move that you could pull off too. So, to be honest, this is more so an evolution of the Squeak Squad idea. And then for the second form of ability combos, you have some abilities that have unique special moves, like stone can be combined with ice, water, or wind to turn into a curling stone. You combine ESP with stone and then you get geokinesis. Hell, 4 of the abilities just let you chuck your friends across the screen. And it's honestly pretty great. That never got old. Just, hey, come here for a second. Bam! In terms of what abilities are here to mess with, plenty of classics return as expected, but we all want to hear about the new stuff, right? Well, first off, returning abilities that we haven't seen in quite a while. Starting off, cleaning makes a grand return. Haven't seen it since Dreamland 3, where it sucked. Now it's become like a bit of fan service for that game, instantly making it one of the best abilities in a while. You can also suck up your friends in a vacuum and shoot them across the screen. That's pretty rad. Yo-Yo makes a return from Superstar, playing basically exactly as you remember it, with the new ability to walk the dog. God, Kirby games are so adorable. Plasma shows up for the first time in quite a while, but it's really just a reskinned Spark. Nothing too special there. And lastly, Cook and Suplex make returns as well, playing exactly as you remember them, so they're not too special either. However, their inclusion means we also get the return of Bugsy and Chef Kawasaki. I am a sucker for seeing classic characters finally making appearances in 3D, and Kawasaki, man, he is seriously one of my favorite Kirby characters. I am so happy he's back. And when you play as him, he even has a unique moveset. So cool. When I grow up, I want to be just like Chef Kawasaki. As for the new abilities, we got 4 this time around. First up is Artist, which gives Kirby a paintbrush and you swing it like a sword. He can even sculpt now too. That's super cool. Good for him for picking up new hobbies. You can even have him draw the Kirby fridge from 64, and it's called Still Life. You get it because it's a picture of an object, and that's what still life is, and said object tosses out items that restore your life, so it's life, so still life. Those clever fools at HAL, they ain't getting past me. Spider gives you the ability to capture enemies in pods, chuck them around, and also shot web. But also his hat is a spider itself, and he can create a web for his friends to jump off of, and it's in the shape of a heart. 10 out of 10. Then there's Staff, which gives you an extendable staff to use for a range of attacks. Pretty basic stuff there. Huh, come to think of it, it's actually fairly similar in design to the baton ability from the anime. Oh no, I've mentioned the anime again. Finally, there's Festival. That was perfect. So yeah, a pretty good lineup of abilities, new and old, par for the course really. However, that's not exactly all of the abilities. Star Allies introduces a new form of abilities called Dream Friends, where you can take control of other characters outright. At the game's launch, we got King Dedede, Meta Knight, and Bandana Waddle Dee, playing just like their Wii counterparts. And there is some free DLC coming along the way with extra friends. The trio from Dreamland 2 finally make a grand return. I have been asking for this for years, and this makes me happier than I wish to admit. You got a slime from Dragon Quest. That's pretty weird. Oh, sorry, that's Gooey. That's right, forgot about him. And even Marks. You remember Marks, right? Kirby's best friend? More Dream Friends are slated to show up too, and that's pretty cool. Nobody else has been announced at the time of this video, but I'm just gonna go ahead and call Ribbon, Taranza, and Susie. I think I know my Kirby characters well enough to place my bets on these three. Maybe I'll make a return to Star Allies when all the DLC is out. We'll see. But this idea is definitely the best bit of fan service the game has, which, in general, is also a bit toned down from before. Special unlockable stages via these switches that we haven't seen in a while, play vintage Kirby music, which is pretty cool. Pawn and Khan finally show their faces after their debut in Dreamland 3, that's pretty sweet. And then throughout the game, you collect a bunch of puzzle pieces which fill in pictures of previous Kirby games. You get absolutely nothing for completing all of them, but they're nice to look at least, except for the one for Kirby 64. Ribbon, man, poor Ribbon has seen some things. Also, I gotta say, damn, this game is beautiful. Doesn't matter what you think about the gameplay style, they did not cheap out on the presentation in the slightest. From start to finish, the game is simply gorgeous. The menus have this really cool shading effect, the world map is full 3D, similar to Super Mario 3D World, and it even ramps up in scope. First up, you're just exploring Dreamland, and then you get the entirety of Popstar. It's a super neat touch. The soundtrack is pretty good too. Surprise, surprise, a Kirby game with good music. I know. I'm pretty sure it's orchestrated too, so not only is it catchy music, it's also really nice sounding. Awesome stuff. The only presentation downside I have is that the game runs at 30 frames per second as opposed to 60. Guys, believe me, I am the opposite of someone who cares about frame rate, and when playing, you really don't notice. But when previous games run at 60, and this game's own menus run at 60, the game sometimes feels choppy. It's really not a huge deal, but I think worth pointing out. And also, I can't forget there are 2 sub-games as well. And meh. That's about all I can say. One is a reskinned Megaton Punch, although admittedly, it has a really cool theme to it. And the other is a button-mashing tree-chopping fest. Which, to be fair, if you're a big fan of Mario Party and you got that good old button-mashing thumb ready to go, they could still make for a good time. But that's it. I can't really see myself returning to these anytime soon. They're just kinda there, cause a Kirby game needs to have sub-games. It just kinda fits the quota. But now it's that time. I want to talk about the end game and the post-game stuff, and I know spoilers. I don't want to spoil any of you guys if you haven't played the game yet. There's a lot of cool things to talk about though, but I'm gonna be a nice guy. Here's the time you should jump to if you want to skip everything. If you don't care, or you want to see spoilers, any of that sort of stuff, you can stick around. But for those who don't, you got 3, 2, 1... After you explore the Popstar, you get to invade the Jam Bastion, the home ship of the evil invaders. It's pretty neat and all, but then you get to explore the entire universe! And you can do the levels here in any order that you want. We're hitting Milky Way Wishes territory here, folks. Really, really cool. You even get to fight Wispy Wood's dad. Oh, huh. Eventually though, after defeating all 3 generals for good, we finally meet the main bad guy that we're after, Highness, whose goal is to revive his Dark Lord to take over and destroy the universe, and he'll even abuse his assistants to get his job done. What a jerk! And to be fair, he's actually kinda creepy too. He gives me these weird Xant from Twilight Princess vibes. I wonder what he looks like under the hood. Okay. Did not see that coming. Man, this is by far one of the weirdest designed Kirby characters yet. But okay, the goal still remains. You hit him enough times, and he is down. As a result, he then sacrifices himself for his goal? Wow, that is a turn I did not see a Kirby game taking. So despite your best efforts, the Dark Lord has been resurrected regardless, presenting to you the final boss, Void Termina, this huge Majora's Mask looking beast. The Majora's Mask reference is obvious, right? I mean, for crying out loud, his name is Termina. Whoa, and the battle takes place in 3D too? That's pretty sick, dude. After giving his glowing spots enough damage, you end up going inside him to battle his heart. But first off, you have to crack the shell, and then you get shot out for another battle against Void Termina in a bird form. You shoot him again a whole bunch, and then you go back inside for one final battle to see what you released. And this is Void Soul. Often resembling Kirby, it actually ends up playing more like a platformer version of the Drossia Soul fight from Canvas Curse. That's kinda neat, and for the first time in quite a while, aside from the return in Robobot, this is the closest we've gotten to a new fight with dark matter. And that's actually awesome. That's another thing I've been wanting this series to do for a long time. I mean, come on now. This is just dark matter. One Dragon Ball energy blast off later, the entire arsenal of Kirby's friends go in for one last attack. And with that, the universe is saved. And in another bit of fan service, the last scene is Kirby flying by on a warp star. Another nice touch. So things definitely don't get as crazy as Planet Robobot got with its final boss, which was absolutely insane, need I remind you. But this gets the job done, and it is still a satisfying conclusion. Afterwards, you unlock 2 more modes. First up, there is the Ultimate Choice, this game's version of the arena, a boss rush essentially. The big difference this time around is you can choose your difficulty before going in, which is cool. The way the game handles this is adorable as well. The level of hot sauce determines how hard the adventure is going to be. Wait a minute, isn't that a face that comes from the anime? Oh no, I've done it again. And then there is Guest Star mode. Like DDD Tour and Meta Nightmare Returns before it, this is a truncated version of the main adventure. But you can play as any of the friends that you've made along the way. It's basically Helper to Hero from Superstar Ultra, and it is a great way for some extra replay value. And also following suit from previous Kirby games, there's a unique final boss here too. It's Galactonite making another return. Yeah, we have seen him a bunch by this point, but it's always nice to see, you know, since it always makes for an exciting boss fight. What? Excuse me? Morpho Knight? That's the beta design for Meta Knight. This is canon now? Wow. When HAL Labs hits the bottom of the barrel with fan service, they do so in excellent fashion. This is so damn sweet. But whew. Okay, hold on. Coming down from that, speaking of more awesome moments, I gotta talk about real quick the final secret level, because near the end, the crew enters a giant Game Boy into a recreation of the first level of Kirby's Dream Land. Not sure if it's better than the way Kirby's Adventure handled it, but it's still pretty sick. And it ends off with one of the coolest things I have ever seen. Or, should I say heard. The controller doesn't have a speaker. That's the HD rumble rumbling the song from That is genuinely amazing, okay? So yeah, the post-game content in this game is pretty sweet. And with that, that is Kirby Star Allies. Content-wise, it does fall in line with the rest of the series. But again, like I said, it's weaker than a lot of those other games too, just based on difficulty. If you want to play multiplayer, cool, easy recommendation. If you want a single-player Kirby experience on the Switch, currently it's a full-price game too, that makes it a little bit harder to swallow. You may want to wait. I had a good time with it, but to be fair, I think for Kirby I have pretty low expectations. I'll take anything that Pink Puff throws at me. But if you thought I was done talking about Kirby, think again. This is a brand new console Kirby game here. That's a special occasion. I got a couple of buddies who want to talk about Kirby too.
Yes, AntDude, because as you know, I'm not that familiar with the Kirby franchise, so I figured I could use your particular set of skills and your Kirby expertise to help me in my video. And I gotta be honest though, you actually weren't my first choice. Initially, I tweeted Paul Rudd and asked him if he wanted to help me in my video, but he flat out didn't even reply. So I figured Ant-Man and Dude, nah, you'll do.
Yeah, it's very cute.
Well, you are the Kirby guy after all. Some parts of Star Allies are pretty mind-blowing, so I wanted to see if you wanted to get together to talk about it. Maybe?
You two do realize I do like other things that aren't just Kirby, right?
Do you?
Who am I kidding?